Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I am your host, Sreth, and every episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy, I bring comics from all over the country, and we dive into their comedy journey so far. So, with that being said, welcome to the stage, Zeke. Hey,
All
Zeke, how
right.
are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Thank you for being my guest today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you, and thank you for taking time out. And you're welcome, indeed. So, you're a traveling comedian, and your delightfully bizarre show has been all around the U.S. and Vietnam and beyond. And what are some of your favorite shows in Vietnam, the U.S. and beyond?
So in Vietnam, I did about like a month long run between uh, Saigon and Hanoi. So I went all the way through, and I went. There's a place in Hue in the middle of Vietnam that was really cool. I wound up. I did a show and I played drums with some just local folks, and a lot of people didn't understand me on that show, but they had a lot of fun with it. So they spoon fed me whiskey and just talked about and like, oh, it was funny when you said the F word, and it was funny when you cussed. And they didn't quite understand my jokes, but that was probably my favorite night. And we just stayed up all night talking about how English words are funny. Right?
Indeed, and your favorite venues that you performed at across the U.S.
Yeah. Um, I started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and then I moved to DC, and I did a place called Heaven and Hell Bar. That was my first real time doing it outside of the Southeast. And then went to Philly. I did a few places in Philly. God, I can't remember all the names. I don't know. I can't remember the names. And then I Seattle did it at Thai food restaurant, and well, one of my favorite places was Laughing Skull. I just did an open mic in Laughing Skull in Atlanta, and that was one of my favorite places. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Atlanta's a beautiful city. I've only performed there once, and it was at the Relapse Theater when I went on tour.
Yeah,
But they're closed now, but it was an awesome place for sure.
yeah, they've got a great
Indeed,
scene over
strong scene there. So your cynicism and off indeed, most definitely. Your cynicism and offbeat one-liners cover everything from bugs, umbrellas, camels, and the Donner Party, and that's quite an interesting mix there. And how did you find your voice in comedy?
there. How did I find my voice in comedy? That's a good question. I just kept doing it. I mean, I've been doing it for a while. I started off just writing one-liners, punchlines, and then I just kept doing it over and over again, and eventually found my voice. It's kind of like an awkward but comfortable. I don't know. It's weird. How do you find your voice in comedy? Just doing it over and over again, honestly. There, and then eventually it kind of just came out naturally.
Most definitely. And you've been performing stand-up for 8 years now, and you've got to open up for T.J. Miller. And what was that like?
It was really cool. There was close to 300 people in the crowd. We talked to TJ. I talked to TJ Miller for a while beforehand, and he was really nice beforehand. And then he got really drunk. He wasn't quite as nice later on, but it was a good experience. There was a lot of people talking. They did standing room only in that show, so everybody was just standing up, walking around, talking. So I had to kind of. I was the only opener, so I had to kind of tell everybody to be quiet a whole bunch of times. But other than that, I mean, it was great doing comedy in front of like 300 people that were there to see comedy, and I still that was in my hometown in Mobile, so I still have people bring it up to me just randomly when I'm walking around. Like, oh, you're the guy that opened up for TJ Miller. I was like, what are you doing in Mobile? I was like, oh, this is where I live. I'm like, oh, all right.
Indeed. And you also opened for Joe DeRosa, and what was that like?
So I opened up for him a while ago. I'd say about 5 years ago. He came to the Blind Mule, and that was cool, man. We only did 5 minutes, or no, did 10 minutes before him, and then he went out. He asked about the local bars, and we went to a bar next door and hung out and talked to Joe DeRosa for a few hours. And that was he's a cool dude. I asked him about like how long did it take you before you got your first hour? How long did all this stuff? And he was very happy to answer the questions, and he was It was a great night.
Awesome. And you've also opened for Andrew Zimmerman, like the travel channel guy.
Yeah, he
Or
went
that's
the
oh cool.
yeah he was in another bar. It's still in the hometown, but I didn't get to talk to him quite as much. But he was really funny. He had a kind of a clean comic demeanor, but he wasn't necessarily a clean comic. But he was just kind of just a goofy dude. I did 15 before him, and it was a lot of fun.
Dang, good stuff. And you also opened for Ron Babcock, and what was that like?
So that was even earlier on. I'd say he worked on I think the Muppet movie or something, and he was coming right off of that, and he was doing a tour, and the whole thing was sponsored by his I think it was his friend's car dealer. So he was doing it in a class. He was doing a countrywide tour in a classic BMW, and I don't know. He was really awesome. He was super tight, extremely professional, and he was a funny, just good dude. I still keep up with him from time to time on Facebook and stuff. So.
Awesome. Sweet. And so, Zeke, these were the questions I wanted to ask you when I was hoping to go on tour, but the pandemic hit. But with that being said, Zeke, what inspired you to form stand-up comedy?
One night in college, one of my friends actually was doing it first. My friend Nick Perez, and one specific night we had drank a whole bottle of Everclear, and he was like, "I'm gonna go do comedy." I was like, "Cool, man." And he was like, "You should do it too. You're funny." And then I woke up after my hangover, and I was like, "You know what? Why would I not do it?" And I'd been playing music since I was like 14, and I don't know, it just kind of made sense. It was a natural progression, and got on stage, and I loved it, and I can't stop now.
Indeed, most definitely. And what was it feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
So I went over my time. I was supposed to do 3 minutes. I wound up doing like 6 or 7, and it's still one of my favorite sets to this day. I still use some of the same jokes that I'd written the first because I meticulously wrote these jokes, and I mean my stage presence wasn't there, but the jokes were there, and I got a lot of great feedback after the first time, and it just I don't know it was a whole new thing. I felt affirmed, if that makes any sense. It was like a whole new thing for me, and I still try and catch the wave to this day. So.
Indeed. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Um, so albums, I'd say the one I can't remember what it's called. The one where Mitch Hedberg has the bass player playing in the background the whole time is one of my favorites. I love that. I love just that like idea of bringing back like vaudeville stuff, like doing comedy over music. It was just a bass player, but it was funny. He interacted with the bass player, and it brought a whole new dynamic to his comedy. That's always amazing. Um, Dave Chappelle, the first one that I really the special that I first really started watching when Blockbuster was going out of business. I bought Dave Chappelle's Live at the Fillmore in DC, and I lived in DC for a little while, and I probably watched that fucking special. Sorry, I'm not fucking cuss. Watched it probably like 400 times, man. Like I watched that almost every single day, and Dave Chappelle I mean, obviously he's one of the best, and that special just was absurd, and he made a lot of great points, but it was also absurd, and it was just like, wow, you can just really just get on stage and do this for an hour. It's amazing. So those are probably my two big ones right there.
Indeed. And some of those guys have been on TV and film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcoms, sketch shows, and comedy films are.
That's a good question. Um, I got to give the shout out to Shrek. I feel like Shrek was a groundbreaking film for what it was, and it was funny, and it still holds up. I can still probably quote most of it. Sitcoms, man, I love that '70s show. I love. So I just started watching the Carmichael show with Gerard Carmichael, and that's actually pretty funny. I mean, it's not the best sitcom by anything, but I'm watching it now, and it's super enjoyable. I like Gerard Carmichael a whole bunch. Frasier, ooh, Frasier is a big one for me too. I watch Cheers too, but Frasier just the new thing for me. Because he does the witty puns. There's a lot of witty puns in that show, and I love picking up on those. And he uses big words for jokes, and it's like, ah, nice. That's a way to go, Fraser. Those are, yeah.
Indeed, most definitely. And your favorite sketch shows?
Chappelle Show, I mean, is the number one. Ooh, Mr. Show, love Mr. Show. Got to shout out Mr. Show. That was amazing. Every time I watch it, I still go back. I don't know if I've seen all the episodes, but I've seen most of them. And every time I watch, every time I go back, it's classic. It's I can watch the same episode a couple times in a row, and it's still like, oh, well done, guys. So yeah, Mr. Show, Chappelle Show.
Indeed. And if you can go on tour with any local comic or internationally known comic, which comics would you like to go on tour with?
Oh wow. Local or international comics that I'd like to go on tour with. Hannibal Buress seems like he'd be a lot of fun to drive around with. I mean, going back, obviously, like if I got to grace the stage with Dave Chappelle, that would be the most amazing thing in the world. But I think more realistically, yeah, Hannibal Buress, Jim Brewer from Half Baked. He seems like a super nice stand-up dude, super honest, super cool. You wouldn't get angry at him at the end of the tour. I feel like you'd be able to share a room with him and be okay with it.
Indeed. And local comic?
Oh, local comics. So I mean, when I tour, I try and bring one of my friends. So any of my friends, but me and my friend Carson Taylor, and Bill Goodman, we did a tour. The last one that we did actually, actually, this was probably about 2 years ago, and that was a lot of fun. I've been playing music with Carson since we were like 14. Like I said, we've known each other for almost 15 years now, so that's always great. But it was good. We had a new friend, Bill, with us that kind of calmed us down because we were trying to revert back to our 14-year-old's ways, and he was like, "Come on, guys, we got to make it to the next place tomorrow." So, yeah, right.
Indeed, most definitely. And if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Roasted by. Garoppolo would be a big one. I mean, Jeff Ross to get roasted by, that'd be big. Don Rickles, I feel like he would tear me apart. I watched one roast, and he's not necessarily a comedian, but Andy Samberg was on a roast, and he was just ridiculous because his roasts weren't really roasts, and he just kind of roasted the roast process, and that was a lot of fun to see. So I mean, that would be fun to have at the roast. And one more. Rodney Dangerfield, I feel like would be a good one to get roasted on if he had time to write for it. That would be cool.
Indeed. And where do you see your comedy during the next 5 years?
Well, with the pandemic, same way. I was booking a tour for April, May of last year, and I didn't get to do it, obviously, because of the shutdown. So that's a weird thing to do with the pandemic to put it out 5 years, but hopefully it'll be done soon. And I don't know. I'm gonna keep working the road, keep hitting the road, keep road dogging it, trying to. I have a music group too, so if anything, realistically though, I mean, just putting out more internet content would be a big thing because obviously that's kind of what everything's moving to now. So I don't know. Once I can tour again, though, I'll be right back to touring. So
Most definitely. And which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing, etc.?
I was in an improv troupe in DC for a little while, and that was a lot of fun. And we use a lot of comedy in our music too. It's kind of a extension of, or comedy's like an extension of our music in a little bit, because it's kind of because both of them are all about timing, and they're both funny. We don't take it too seriously. We do it because we love it, not because I don't get angry at it, if that makes any sense. And I'm open to any kind of comedy, any kind of anything that anybody brings to me. It's just as long as I'm having fun with it, and not and nobody's getting too angry about it, then I'm willing to do pretty much whatever.
Indeed. And what is your favorite joke a comic has written?
Oh, I won't say my favorite joke necessarily. It's probably a Mitch Hedberg joke, but I love the aspect. So Jimmy Carr did a whole thing where he tried to see how short he can make his jokes, and it's definitely not my favorite joke, but it's the most impressive joke for me. He wrote a joke that's just two words. It has a setup and a punchline. It's a whole joke, and it's just dwarf shortage. And that's a joke. It's impressive. Like that, he made a joke out of two words. It's like it's not my favorite joke. It's not like the most funny thing I've ever heard in my life, but it's definitely impressive that he had the wherewithal to come up with that two-word joke. It's like got to set up in a punch.
That's pretty impressive. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
After what? I'm sorry.
After your set is over, what
Oh,
experience would you like your audience to take with them?
oh, I do a lot of kind of weird callbacks. I kind of repeat myself. Things get kind of drawn out for a minute, and people a lot of the times a lot of times my favorite things are like, wow, that was like that was a great set, man. That was like poetry, because I kind of same thing with the music thing. It's a whole, I kind of write my jokes and I do my set with a beat and a rhythm that is kind of off key and off putting, but once you get through it, it's like, wow, that made a lot of sense at the end of it. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I don't know. I guess I just write dialogue for that moment in time for them, so they go home and it's like they decorated their 15 minutes of life with just some ridiculous one-liners and stuff that all finally came together, and kind of hopefully have some more understanding. Not necessarily, I'm not trying to like solve any problems or anything, but I think more understanding, more open-mindedness is like, because I kind of force you to look into another perspective whenever you go through with it. So yeah, more perspective, I'd say.
Awesome. And today we're raising some funds in Sub River and revival to raise funds for today.
I'm sorry. So you cut out for a second. I'm so sorry. You said something about Clearwater Revival.
Yep. What made you pick the Dog River Clearwater Revival to raise funds for today?
I so I they do a, actually my family helps put it on, and they do a once a year big show, and I emceed for them a few times for their big shows, and I don't know, it's just clearing up the waterways, getting the litter out of the Dog River and the Delta and all the waterways around the southeast, and I mean it's close to my heart because I grew up near the water, so I like to see it clean, and hopefully we can figure out all of our human issues once we figure out the Earth issue. If that makes any sense.
Most definitely. Indeed. And Zeke, you were nominated for my show to be a guest twice from the local comics in Alabama, and so this is like the secret society of stand-up comics, like the Prohibition, the Roaring Twenties, and so you got to know someone to know someone to join the club. So Zeke, which comics from Alabama or Mississippi would you like to see on the future episodes of the stand-up Speakeasy?
Carson Taylor. I don't know if anybody's brought him up to you. We toured together. Um, Jade Green. Probably, I'm sure somebody's brought him up. He's in Mobile. Uh, there's two. I don't know if you know about Govna. Govna's been doing comedy for a long time, and he helped kind of build the scene around here. Martin Wright on Facebook, and also Ryan Jetton was the kind of our the Mobile's scene godfather, for lack of a better word for it. He ran everything here for a while. That was the only reason there was any comedy in Mobile for a long time, and he hasn't done it in about a year, but he's still one of my favorite guys he used to do like a whole character, and then he changed the character and did his own thing. So yeah, those would be Carson Taylor, Jay Green, Ryan Jetton, and Govna or Martin Wright. Those are those would be good guys to talk to.
Us. Fan. Sweet. Thank you so much, Zeke, and for recommending those fine comics, and I'll be sure to reach out to and stuff. And for those at home watching, please donate to his Cash App, like him on Facebook, Instagram, follow him on both accounts. Donate to his Venmo, subscribe to his YouTube channel, donate to the Dog River Clearwater Revival as well. And Zeke, are there any words, final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
Just try it. If you're thinking about doing something, just do it. Hey.
Indeed, absolutely. And for Zeke and for myself and the Stand Up Speakeasy, and take care of each other and be safe and be well. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy. Be well.